I love the idea of a testimony. I had to tell myself that all week, that this is not a play, it's not a performance, it's a testimony to the people I love. So about 4 years ago, I was in my favorite place, which is Ojo Caliente, New Mexico. Just beautiful, healing waters in the northern hills. And I found myself in this treatment called a Milagro wrap. And there was a beautiful indigenous woman who wrapped my naked body like a colicky baby in warm blankets. And I felt like I was suffocating, but her eyes told me, you're going to want to leave, but don't. And so I'm sweating, and I'm probably sweating more than the average person because I'm sweating out the 2 bottles of wine I drank the night before at this holy place. And I saw something. I saw myself far into the future. And I was so happy, and I was filled with joy. And I realized I'd never felt that way before. And so I started to pray. And I asked, how do I get there? How do I get that light? And okay, I'm a pretty spiritual person, but I am not in the habit of seeing celestial beings floating all over. But I did there. And I very clearly, as I prayed and asked the question, the answer came at the exact same time with no judgment. All they said was, you know, Jami, you know what you have to do. This reminded me of 15 years ago. I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and I lived in Nicaragua with a bunch of friends. My best friend Luke and I, when we would get away from our sites, we would meet each other on the beach or in little hostels, and we would drink. We would drink a lot. We drank a lot of rum, like enough rum for a Nicaraguan cartel kind of rum drinking. And I don't even like rum, but like the cinnamon, I thought that's the medicine I needed. And we had a joke. And every morning we'd wake up and Luke would look over at me and say, let me guess, you're never drinking again. Ha ha. And that joke was a lot funnier to him than it was to me. I can honestly say that for 15 years, every time I've had a drink in my hand, I've thought about quitting drinking. And every time I didn't have a drink in my hand, I thought about quitting drinking. This is a story about that. This is for Emily. If I could have, I would have glued my wide lens sunglasses to my flushed and puffy face. I would have slept all day and erased all of the parts of 15 years that had robbed me of my joy and stunted my growth. If I could have, I would have thrown in the towel. But I had made plans with a sister friend. A friend who I believed at the time had never been through anything painful in her life. I like to refer to her as an innocent. She was blissfully blessed with a life just on the right side of ordinary, or so I told myself. But that was a lie. Most everything I told myself about people who don't drink too much was false, a narrative built to satisfy my hungry ghosts. Hungry ghosts, as the Buddhists call them, are fat-bellied little demons with emptied stomachs who could never be satisfied, and they live inside all of us. We feed them however we can, often with food, alcohol, shopping, sex, and other vices. I filled their rumbling bellies with booze and then tried to convince myself that friends like the one I was about to meet for breakfast never felt the way I do because they were ordinary and simple and uncomplicated. I filled my hungry ghosts with fictions about the reasons why I drank and stories of resentment about people who don't. I told myself that this sister friend never really suffered, and the thought of spending time with her as I was suffering so deeply angered me and made me hate her, albeit unfair. If I could have, I would have canceled our brunch date, but I was unwavering in my loyalty even in my worst state. And I was able to show up as a halfway decent friend, a friend whose hungry ghost secretly hated you, but a friend nonetheless. I painfully grabbed my bright yellow shoulder bag, tossed on a sophisticated turmeric and poppy-colored pashmina, slipped on my vintage black flats, and held my shaking hands steady as I lined my lips with my signature shade of red. I wore my costume well, the costume of a young woman living life on her own terms and enjoying the occasion of overindulgence. They made red lipstick and big, dark sunglasses for women like me. Most days, I was able to convince myself that there was something deep and charming about this getup, but not today. A nightmarish scene of Sunday brunch with hipsters and newcomers to my city exacerbated my dizziness, and I had no choice but to stare at the black and white checkered restaurant floor and hope the nausea from my hangover would pass. I realized that that floor was the same as my grandma's basement floor. Hers wasn't a typical basement for a grandmother, and instead was modeled to look like a replica of the Irish bar that my family owned. They sold it before I was born, but it wasn't lost on me in that moment that I, like many members of my family, weren't spared from its influence. As quickly as my cigarette-smoked throat could muster the words, I ordered a black coffee and an orange juice and a soda water with lemon and lime. And heart racing and foot tapping and guilt mounting and finally surrendering. A mimosa. Light on the orange juice, please. I drank and listened to my friend talk about her slightly above boring week. Another lie that I fed my hungry ghosts. I made them a tasty meal by telling them that her sober, domesticated life was a drag. I clutched a rose quartz in my hand, hoping that it would lend its healing properties. Why? Because a sacred stone is going to get me through the layers of pain and disappointment and fear and unworthiness that led me to this moment? Not on your life, my friend. Look. The earth has healing properties. But if you're not truly ready to heal, they can't and won't work for you. They don't swoop in to rescue you, all of your stones and oils and vegan meals and Epsom salt baths and nature walks. You've got to get the poison out before they can restore you. Healing isn't a one-sided miracle. You have to do your part. The chomping of eggs Benedict and the clanking of forks against plates and spoons against coffee mugs, the laughter and the chatter, cars parking outside, metal chairs sliding across my grandma's tile, oldies streaming over the speakers, and my friend's voice hoping to connect with mine. It was the perfect recipe for madness. Just kill me, I thought. Surrounded by the chaos of the sounds of earth brunching and drowning in my growing panic, my inevitable knock-down, drag-out, come to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph moment could no longer be hidden away behind solid friendships, a managed reputation, and a promising career. I knew right then that every last bit of what I or some higher power was saying about me, to me, was true. All of it. I had to accept my new path. The wave was here. Wash her over, knock her down, remind her of that which is truly powerful, baptize her, wash her clean. I took what felt like my first breath in a very long time and ordered another mimosa, the very last one.
Help me. It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. laying on the bathroom floor, feeling nothing. I'm overwhelmed and insecure. Give me something I can take to ease my mind slowly. Just have a drink and you'll feel better. Just take 'em home and you'll feel better. Keep telling me that it gets better. Does it ever? Help me. It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up. No medicine is strong enough. Someone help me. I'm crawling in my skin. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. Looking through my phone again, feeling anxious, afraid to be alone again. I hate this. Trying to find a way to chill, can't breathe. Is there somebody who could help me? It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up. No medicine is strong enough. Someone help me. I'm crawling in my skin. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. I need somebody now. I need somebody now. It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. I need somebody.